Morning everyone. It's 17th of January and would you believe it's my first ride this year, so it's been probably 20 days since I last rode. It didn't really matter too much because the weather was awful, it was icy, and after my recent escapades I wasn't going to go out in anything other than decent weather. It's just coming up to 5 degrees, so not too cold. Haven't got the big coat on today, just wearing the windproof. That's helping. Today I'm testing my new gadget. It's the Garmin Radar. My first experience of this device was seeing my ride leader colleague Graham with one. I didn't take a lot of notice at the time, but I do remember him telling me he actually picked up a low-flying helicopter once. My next experience was just before New Year when I rode with Jez Coupland, and it's the first time I really took notice of the device and made me look into it a bit more because I was so impressed. So I bought one. It's designed to give you advance warning of traffic behind you, and it certainly does that. The only thing I would say today is that because the roads are wet, I'm actually getting advance warning of cars before I hear it on the Garmin, because I'm hearing the road noise in the water. One of the first things I noticed was that I was actually hearing cyclists being picked up, and I thought that was quite a good thing, because you know, cyclists are usually faster than me. So if they're closing at more than 10 kilometers an hour, this radar is going to pick them up. I think that's quite useful, because I had once or twice where I've probably moved out into the road because I can't hear anything, and suddenly a cyclist has appeared. And not all cyclists shout that they're passing you, so that's a plus. Morning. We've got a car coming around the bend. There it is. On some sections of road, I'm always looking over my shoulder because the traffic's coming quite slowly behind and I can't always hear it. When there's potholes around, it's not a good thing to be looking over your shoulder too much, because it often induces a wobble. Well, it does with me anyway. Of course you can use a mirror, but a mirror means that you've got to keep looking at it, whereas the radar is effectively passive. You don't have to take any notice of it until it gives you a warning. I have found that when riding into wind, I can't actually hear the Garmin 820 head unit giving me the warning. It's not very loud, and in fact it doesn't have a method for turning it up at all. So what I've done, I've put the Garmin app on the phone. I've got the phone in my back pocket, so not only does the head unit warn me, the phone makes its noise, which I can hear, and it also vibrates. So I've got it covered on all fronts. One thing that's made this Garmin Radar, the Varia 515, more accessible is that it now has Bluetooth as well as the Ant Plus connectivity, so you can actually use it on a phone. So if you're using if you're using a Wahoo device, it will connect with that, but it will also connect with apps on your phone. So things like Ride with GPS and Wahoo on a phone, it does connect. And the beauty of the phone is, of course, you can increase the volume. So far I haven't found a way to increase the volume on the Garmin, but maybe I'm just going deaf. So here's a car approaching. I think the rapid flash when cars approach certainly does seem to make them take notice. I've noticed several of the cars slow down a bit, so that I think is a useful feature too. Morning. Didn't want to startle you.
Nice to be out, isn't it?
Oh, lovely.
Lovely.
One drawback I have discovered, and that is that the Garmin head unit won't work with this in battery saving mode. So as soon as it goes into battery saving mode, the radar disconnects. Now that's a bit of an issue for me on very long rides, because I find battery saving mode is the only way I can get, say, a century ride and still have the Garmin working at the end. Now the other option, and I will experiment with this, is that I can leave the phone connected, and obviously although I won't get the visual display on the Garmin, it's certainly going to give me a warning. Well, on today's ride, the radar has certainly warned me of several situations where I hadn't heard the vehicle. These were on quite narrow roads where the traffic is a little bit slower, so I didn't hear it coming. It's also a road where it's necessary to keep out of the verge to make sure you're not in the potholes and in the muck and the thorns and etc. So it was really useful that I knew that until I got a warning, I didn't really need to pull over too far to the left. I wasn't on the wrong side of the lane, but I was certainly out so cars couldn't get by. So it's quite reassuring. So I'm over near Stoke Rochford. A lot of it was showing as private road, but a few businesses down there and offices, so I don't think anyone was too worried. It's certainly looking good for the summer. This is a bridleway that goes right through the park. I'm not going to attempt it today, but it certainly looks like a fantastic summer ride. Of course, I think it would be foolish just to rely on a piece of technology. After all, you know, it could fail. But from what I've seen on reviews, it's 100% effective in warning. So personally, I would still look, and certainly before taking a turn, I would always make sure I look over my shoulder. But the Garmin radar is certainly providing another level of information, which on today's roads can't be a bad thing. Now, do I think it's worth the £169 that these things sell for? Well, it's only got to save me once, so I would say it probably is. Now, I've got British Cycling membership, so I bought mine through Halfords, and I think I just paid about £152 with the 10% discount we get. So if you're going to buy one, certainly worth looking at that route. Tell you something, it's a lot colder today in this wind. Well, it was a really good ride. Enjoyed that. It was a bit nippy, and I've only done 25 miles, but quite glad I'm back. I took the Ribble out today, and a few occasions, especially into wind, where I was very glad of the e-assist, but nearly home now. From being a little bit disappointed with the Garmin radar yesterday, I'm actually very pleased with it today. I've had several instances where cars have been coming up behind me and I didn't know they were there, particularly when they came out of side turnings behind me, suddenly appeared. And also, you probably know that situation where you think you've heard a car, you've singled out, and then there is no car. And I've had a few of those situations today, and it's where cars have turned off before they've overtaken me, and it's fine. I know that they've gone, and we can carry on as we were. Could I live without the Garmin radar? Well, after 2 days, yeah, probably could. If somebody said it had got to go back, then I could. But having said that, I think as the rides go on, and especially in the summer when there's less road noise to pick up, and when more electric cars come on the road, I think it's going to be really useful. I've already mentioned cyclists passing me. I've had that several times today. That's been quite useful to know they're there. So all in all, I think it's good. One thing I have got to do is make some sort of adjustment so that I can put my saddlebag back on, because there really isn't room for the saddlebag and the radar. Now the radar, if I have it any lower, the mudguard's going to be in the way, so it's not going to pick up quite as well. So what I'll probably do is make some sort of extension that fits behind the saddle. I went away and did some research and found various gadgets that would do the job, but then I found this idea on the YouTube channel of a guy called Ted Guzman. He's an American guy, and he come up with this really simple solution, and this is how it looks. We've got the unit actually fitted direct to the bag. And as you can see there, it's just a Garmin twist mount, which I had 2 spares, and it's actually cable tied to the bag. It's nice and simple, extremely secure, and that's not going anywhere. I'll put a link to Ted's page if anyone wants to copy it. I mean, it might be that you don't want to make holes in your bag, but I have no problem with that at all. What you'll see also is that I've put one of the rubber rings from the fitting kit onto here, because there's no way of fitting a safety lanyard to this device. So I'll just put this ring round and I'll fit a lanyard to the bag, so you know, if it does drop off, at least it's not going to go very far. And if you want an idea of how bright the light is in the dark, there it is. It's if anything, it's probably a shade too bright for the dark, but this would be ideal for daylight. But you have got different settings, including a daylight mode and a nighttime mode, so you've got it covered completely. You can also control the lights from the Garmin head unit, so you don't even have to get off your bike if you want to alter the lighting. Now, this isn't meant to be a definitive review of the Garmin radar, it's just me using it, give you an idea. If you really want to have some detail on how it works, I'll put a link to the YouTube channel that I watched, and it's a particularly good review, so I'll put that in the description below. So as always, thanks for watching, and please like and subscribe if you can, and until next time, safe riding.